On his visit to the East Midlands today, the Prime Minister fired the starting gun on Britain's next election. Meanwhile, in Bristol, Mr Flip-Flop Keir Starmer tells us Britain's future rests in the public's hands.
This is your year. The opportunity to shape our country's future rests in your hands. And that is a New Year message of hope. The hope of democracy, the power of the vote, the potential for national renewal, the chance finally to turn the page, lift the weight off our shoulders, unite as a country and get our future back.
Yeah. The hope of democracy, the power of the vote, soon to be out in paperback in all good bookshops. Anyway, do we remember what he said back in 2019?
I'm really pleased that whatever outcome the next Prime Minister puts before us, whether that's a deal of some sort or no deal, we've agreed that it must be subject to another referendum. And in that referendum, Remain must be an option, and Labour will be campaigning for Remain. That's a really important point of principle. I'm equally pleased that we've reached consensus on this, that trade unions are behind it, the shadow cabinet's behind it, and I know it's what our members want.
Nothing like a bit of consensus. We do love a leader who sits on the fence. And with me to discuss our box of election selections, talkTV's political correspondent Alicia Fitzgerald and journalist at the Independent John Rentoul. Guys, welcome, and thank you so much for coming in tonight. I love watching Keir Starmer, particularly when he flip-flops around and makes a new statement about hope. I mean, the only hope he's really looking at is that he hopes he gets elected, isn't he?
Well,
he's hoping he wins the election.
And why not? I mean, there is a strong mood for change in the country, which I suspect is going to overcome the defects of Labour's policy platform, which are many.
Yes.
But the Tories are doing such a dreadful job of taking it apart when they should be. They should be really putting Labour under pressure.
Well, of course, they say they will put them under pressure, don't they, Alicia? Because they're saying that... I mean, I was listening to James Sunderland the other day, and I know he's not necessarily a leading figure in the Tory party, but people in the Westminster party, in the Tory group, say, yes, we will lower taxes. Yes, we will manage to get inflation further down. Yes, people's standard of living will return. And, you know, we haven't lost the election yet.
Well, this is it. So I think what Starmer's been doing until this point is really trying to keep his policies under wraps for that exact reason.
He's doing a good job of that.
But yes, that's very true. It's because he knows that the moment he sets things out in stone and firmly says, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it, the Conservatives can easily jump on that and say, hang on, we're going to do it just one step better, and we've maybe costed it a little bit better and thought about it just that one step further. Right. So Starmer's just trying to be a bit tactical here, and that's why he hasn't said exactly what he's going to do and when. The trouble is, the closer
he doesn't know. I mean, this is.
But I mean, they can't keep that up, can they? They can't keep saying until we see the figures.
He tried to pretend today. I mean, he was asked a question by the FT, and he tried to bamboozled them about how he'd had intensive discussions with global investors about how they were going to achieve decarbonising our electricity by 2030. 2030 is 5 years after they take office.
Yes,
it can't be done.
No.
And
but also,
he cannot explain how it's going to be done.
And you were tweeting today about his announcement and the various questions that he was being asked, and he more or less started with this idea of, you know, the new energy company that he wants to form. And by the end of the answer, he'd more or less walked away completely from it and said, well, of course, if we haven't got the money, we won't be doing that. So he might as well say anything.
So it wasn't at all clear.
No.
I mean, A, what his policies are, and B, whether he intends to fund them at all.
This is it, though, isn't it? This is only going to stand for so long. This has worked until this point. He's been able just to ride off the back of failures that the Conservative Party have made, and that really has just done all that it needs for Keir Starmer. That is really enough. But as we approach the general election, that may not be enough. I mean, I don't mean that to say that he isn't going to win. It does look like he probably will. That said, though, lots of the public just really want to know exactly what he's going to do and when, because just riding off the back of another party's failure isn't always enough to win an election.
And also, I think there will be a lot of questions, John, about who is going to be in the front bench, who's going to be the officers. You know, the one thing we always agree on is that when Tony Blair came in '97, they might not have been particularly experienced in government, but they were pretty substantial individuals around Tony Blair, like Gordon Brown. You know, I mean, you know, Starmer doesn't have a Gordon Brown, for example.
Well, he has a Rachel Reeves.
like I say, he doesn't have a Gordon Brown. No, not even better. No,
she's
no,
not undermining him at every turn and trying to.
Well, no, but we didn't know that was what Gordon Brown was doing.
Yes, we did.
And
John
actually,
did.
and actually, sometimes, well, that's because he was saving it for a book. I mean, sometimes you need to have somebody who wants to undermine you in order to keep you on your toes. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't see anybody really on the front bench. I don't agree that Rachel Reeves is some, mathematical genius.
West Streeting is
West Streeting, I give you. I give you West Streeting, but nobody else.
Darren Jones.
Nobody else.
Never heard of him.
Come on.
I have never heard of Darren Jones.
He's come on talkTV a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
He's never been on my show. I mean, I'm sorry, it sounds like he could be in a boy band for all I know. And I mean, literally, seriously, I mean, if you walk down the street, you have to have recognition if you want to be in government. And if you're not recognised by the general public, who this guy won't be, West Streeting won't be recognised by a lot of people either. And that's an issue.
Yeah, but I mean, I think in opposition, you do have a recognition problem.
You do.
I mean, the thing is, do people recognise Keir Starmer?
Well,
that
guy in the pub in Bath recognised him and threw him out. That's the other problem he's got. The other question I wanted to ask Alicia was about reform this week, because Richard Tice is, an old friend of ours, old colleague of ours. He's gone to pastures new, and he's now, finding his way through the sort of mainstream media interview sector. How do you think they're doing?
Reform specifically. So this was really interesting. Yeah. He did this speech yesterday, just really trying to get the party's message out and just say, we actually just don't agree with anything the Conservatives or the Labour Party do, and we're different. And this comes off the back of them saying that they're going to target every single seat across the United Kingdom, which sent a few nerves around the Conservative Party. And they were actually, allegedly, according to Richard Tice, begging him not to do that, because what it will probably do is split some of the vote share. So any of the seats where the Conservative win could be slightly marginal, really, really small, if loads of the voters who would be voting for Conservative, if they didn't have another option, then vote for Reform, that will send Labour, the Lib Dems, whoever the second party is, into the win there. So that's the issue.
And the Tories have got a bit of form, haven't they, for trying to persuade people like Nigel Farage and UKIP and the Brexit Party to step aside to let them actually win more seats. And some believe that if it hadn't been for them doing that at the last election, Boris Johnson's majority wouldn't have been so big.
Yeah, well, they succeeded in persuading Nigel Farage to stand down in Tory seats last time. And Richard Tice makes no sense to me. I mean, because he coined this phrase "Starmageddon."
Yeah. He's good with the phrases. He's picked a lot of that from me. I tutored him for many years.
Yes, but if a Labour government is so dreadful, then why is he making it more likely?
Yes, well, because he has to do something to try and
punish the Tory.
Well, he wants to reform the Tory party. I think that's what he would tell you. I'm not going to sit here and say what he wants, but he does. Well, the great thing is that reform is a good word, because every time anybody says reform, he thinks it's a plus in the Reform UK column. But no, I think he believes, like a lot of people believe in this country, and a lot of our viewers and listeners believe, the Tory party has ceased to be conservative, and they want a proper right-wing option to actually vote in as a government.
And they're prepared to have 5 or 10 years of the Labour a Labour government in order to achieve it.
Some of them are.
I'm afraid that is just a bonkers.
It could be kamikaze politics, but it will make life very interesting for us, those of us who sit there watching it every single minute. But Rishi Sunak today, I thought, looked very uncomfortable as he did finally what Harry Cole suggested he should do, which was to rule out a May election.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't think anyone was really expecting that announcement today. It was meant to be Keir Starmer's big day. All the media were really kind of geared up to talk about Keir Starmer's speech, which actually ended up being not super eventful, as we heard earlier. But then Rishi Sunak very casually just dropped the fact that his working assumption, and that's his quote, not mine, is that the election will be in the second half of this year. Yeah. Just to clarify, it doesn't necessarily mean it 100% will be in the second half. He could change his mind. It wasn't him saying this is 100% going to be it. But it's pretty much confirming that his plan at the moment is to hold it in the autumn rather than in the spring.
Because he won't have been able to do anything to make life better for everybody by May.
Well, exactly. I mean, by May, I mean, the Conservatives
are still halfway through January.
15, 17 points behind the Labour Party. And no Prime Minister is going to call an election on that.
The only issue is, though, and that this is what the worry always was about waiting, is that could get worse. It could get better. So it is a risk. It's like Rishi's holding out on the off chance that maybe that poll lead does creep up a bit more towards Labour.
I think they're hoping the best they can hope for, which is a small Labour sort of minority government. But there's not many people that would give you odds on that. I mean, I think that's still a possibility, because they still need to get a massive swing to get through. But what I would say, and you're a student of history, I know, that reminded me that Keir Starmer was a sort of cut-rate version of the town called Hope. that Bill Clinton made a speech when he accepted the nomination for president back in whenever it was, 1991, I think it was.
And then we had Barack Obama offering the hopey-changey thing.
Yeah.
So now Keir Starmer's doing the hopey-changey.
Yeah. Well, anyway, listen, I hope to see you again soon. But I've been told that we're out of time. But